Hey crew, Conrad coming at you with a classified ad review on this awesome Tatum Motorsports two-seat Spider with what? An aluminum V8. That's right, aluminum block, aluminum heads. What's that all about? Well, I'll tell you. Let's jump inside and take a closer look. So first, the details. This car is brought to you by Sandcar buy-sell crew member Eric Schroeder. He is based out of Loveland, Colorado. He is asking $30,000 or trade for Polaris RZR Pro R Ultimate 2-seat. And as we mentioned, it is a Tatum Sand Demon 2-seater. It has a 300 horsepower stroked 4.9 liter Rover engine built by GAM Racing Engines. And I really dig these Rovers. I'll tell you a little bit more about it in a bit. Has a Rod Davis aluminum radiator, 091 built trans, 457 ring and pinion, Weddell close ratio gear set, gear 1, super stub axles with 4 piston brakes and 930 CVs, can't go wrong with gear 1, Douglas beadlock wheels, Sand Tires Unlimited, rugged radios with intercom, and it includes a spare 091 transmission and another set of Sand Tires Unlimited stagger cut paddle tires, which I always dig the stagger cut. I always dig the stagger cut. That's what I was trying to say. Okay, moving on. Also available is a 26-foot enclosed race trailer that can be sold as a package deal, but I will not sell the trailer separately unless the sandrail is sold. All right, so that's the specs on it. Let's go ahead and jump inside and take a closer look. All right, first off, what do I see? It looks like it was a windy day at the dunes when they were shooting these photos. Check this out. The sand's blowing off of these. I don't even know where he's at, being based out of Loveland, Colorado. I wonder which dune complex he goes to. But anyhow, moving on. So what do we say? Tatum. Tatum builds off-road race cars, so that means they build awesome sand cars as well. We can't really see the tubing on this with the panels completely covering up the car, but right away, look at the triangulation on this rear shock. Yeah, that's a really nice setup. That makes it really, really stout. Another thing I noticed too is the A-pillar on this, again, just like I like, goes straight up and really tight bend. It really opens up the cockpit in here to get in and out of. Next, they put on a side step. Imagine that. How many times we put on the side panels and we don't bother to put the step on, and then what? It's hard to get in and out of the car. Okay, moving on. Sand Tires Unlimited. I do see we've got comp cut in the back, which means they've taken off an extra layer to get it down to the cord. It makes that tire a lot lighter and spins a lot faster. As I mentioned earlier too, full set of beadlock wheels with color match rings. We've got King shocks with piggyback reservoirs. And you might say, oh, but Conrad, it doesn't have the bypasses and all the things. Well, yeah, it's not an off-road race car. And guess what? It's built really light for the sand, which is, you guys know, I'm always harping on that. Lighter is better in the sand. Well, depending on the chassis package. Well, anyway, we'll get into that later. I like light cars. Why do I say light? Remember what I said, aluminum block V8. This car is going to handle the whoop-de-doos really well, and it's still going to turn. So we've got a light bar on top. We've got a GoPro mount up there. It looks like some sort of a roof rack. I can't remember, Arco lights. Chrome, full chrome package on the front end. And as well, oh, you know what? Let me mention this. So this does have, what did he mention? Gear 1 rear brake system on it, but he's running no brakes in the front. Now for me, I particularly like to run without brakes. It's just one last thing to brake. But these are actually going to be a 5-lug hub that bolts on the, well, let me just show you. Hold on. So I made my way over to the Gear 1 website to show you what I'm talking about. So let me scroll down a little bit here. 5-lug front spindle hubs for combo bearings. This is what we're talking about. We've got, this is the backside of that, so when it slides onto the spindle, and then the studs are pressed through right here. Now we're looking at the face of that. So you see this, gosh, Gear 1 does such a great job. That's a beautiful setup. So here's where you're going to mount your wheel, of course. What these hubs allow you to do is get away from a spindle mount front wheel and put on a 5-lug front wheel instead, which typically is going to push that wheel out just a little bit more than being just on the spindle. And then it's also a lot stronger having that wide 5 bolt pattern on it as well. So that's what I was talking about there. Let's jump back into the car. All right, so after that lesson on front wheel hubs, what else do I see? So we've got a full set of body panels and a hood. Looks like we've got some sort of scoop right here to bring some air in. Also, I saw there's a rack back here for your cooler and whatnot. But otherwise, I think that's pretty much all I see on that. Let's go ahead and jump into the next photo. All right, so actually I don't have a lot of photos to choose from because he only posted up like 5 or 6, but it gives us enough to get an idea, right? Okay, so straight away I see right behind the storage that I mentioned earlier is a fuel tank mounted up over the transmission. I also see we've got some mirrors on here and a billet rear view mirror. Full-size suspension seats with headrests. I really like these when they're not attached, right? Because it gives you the opportunity to slide them up and down. Because I'm a big guy at 6'1", so I want it all the way up, and then when you know, my friends or my kids get in the car, I want to be able to lower that back down for safety. And otherwise on this, what do we see? Some really stout trailing arms that are chrome. I see the exhaust poking through, wings. This is probably a wing trunk. Maybe we'll see when we get a little bit closer. We're also seeing dual whips on here as well. But next. Okay, so here we get a shot of the rear of the car, 3/4, and I see a full dash, right? We've got all sorts of gauges up there, beautiful billet steering wheel. I mentioned that rack for the launch bags and the coolers and all that. The fuel tank has got to be right under here somewhere, and the reason why I say that is because it's got a really nice scoop leading down to the radiator. Now, let's jump into this Rover V8. This is particularly interesting to me because my father had a 215 Oldsmobile all aluminum block V8 with zoomy headers in his, I think, Johnny's Speed and Chrome 4-seaters in the late 1970s and early 1980s. So I'm kind of partial to that V8, and eventually I'd like to build a car with that specific 215 Olds in it. But that was sold to Rover. So I just took down some cliff notes on this to educate you. So Rover V8 began life as the Buick and Oldsmobile 215 V8 in 1960. The engine itself weighed 317 pounds, and they stopped production in 1963. It was then sold to Rover in 1965, and the engine was retired in 2003. So the Rover engine has United States roots. But what that means to you as the consumer, as the person with the engine in this car, it's been built forever. It works really well. It was put in millions of cars. And guess what? The aftermarket for this engine is really strong. So maybe not on US soil, but we go across the pond and guess what? There's lots of hop-up goodies for them. I intend to use a Rover V8 in a future project. It's a really nice engine, and I think you can't go wrong with that setup. So lightweight and big horsepower out of that V8. Looks like we got some chrome. Check out the headers because they usually come out the sides right here. So they ran them up over the top and then ran them out to the wing. So this is not a wing trunk like I mentioned earlier because there's no way with the exhaust exiting out the tail there. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into the next one. All right, and there it is, that Ron Davis aluminum radiator. This is a really nice quality radiator. It's got the shroud around it to go ahead and force that air through. And then take a look at the detail work on the paint. So somebody spent some time grinding. I don't know how they do that. Do they use a grinder with a sanding wheel on it and they buzz across it and then clear coat it? I'm not sure. But that's really nice. Same thing with the interior of this. You know, somebody spent some time with some detail work on this. Also, you can see the headers coming up and out that wing trunk in the back. Really, really cool. Okay, that's all I see there. Next. All right, so let's jump into the back side of the car. And straight away, that exhaust coming through the wing. That is a really, really cool setup. I don't think I've really ever seen anybody run it through the wing like that. Looks like a LED rear light on that, as well as a couple LED lights across the top here. I said earlier double whips. I was wrong. Single whip, and then you've got your rugged radios whip for car to car and whatnot right there. Okay, so moving down, chrome and polish package on there. We've got a really nice skid plate coming through here. Gear 1, nice set of trailing arms. You kind of get an idea of the comp cut tires on that, but overall a really, really clean, simple setup. Okay, let's jump into the next. All right, so here we have an action shot out of the dunes. And what is he doing? 73 miles per hour. I really love this setup when you're filming that you can put the miles per hour on there because a lot of times it's funny. You think you're going fast, but you're not. Well, right here, he is cooking. So we have an idea of the the Rover V8. There's not really much to see. We've got some detail work again on that wing trunk. Okay, next photo. So does the car wheelie? You bet it does, as evidenced by this action shot right here. So looking under the bottom of the car, I do see that there have been some holes drilled in there to let the sand escape, which is just, again, I'm always harping on you guys. You put in that solid floor, the sand has nowhere to go. Also, it's a safety issue as well. We'll get into that into a future episode, but I'm always for holes in the floor. I do notice also on the front bumper, there's a wraparound piece of aluminum that's put on there. That's more like just decoration in a sense, but it's an added touch that a lot of people just skip. So there are some details on this car that a lot of others don't bother. I really, really like it. I'd really like to go for a, well, I'd like to drive it, but I don't know where he's at. Is this Oregon? I don't know where these dunes are. I never travel out of Glamis or Dumont. I don't know where this is. It's got to be Oregon somewhere. But anyhow, let's jump into the next photo. All right, so it looks like we've exhausted all the photos I had. What do we have? Loveland, Colorado, asking $30,000 or trade for a Polaris RZR Pro R Ultimate 2-seat. So he's very specific on that. But hit him up. Find him on our Sandcar Buy Sell Crew Facebook page, or go ahead and leave a comment below and we'll get you in contact with him. SandcarBuySell.com. Website is being revamped right now, so that will be coming soon and you'll be able to find this car and lots of others as well. Otherwise, that's all I got. Thank you for watching. See you in the dunes.